Hello, welcome to today's astrology study group. Um, just a little note about this. Maybe I'm not going to go totally in it today, how it all got started, but a group of us just are interested in astrology, and I kind of led the ball of just trying to find topics every week as I enriched my understanding and research, and it's just made me, have to research and dig into things and become a better astrologer, take other courses, and learn where I can. And sometimes we have an orderly we go over something like when we did a lot of the chart patterns. We did it orderly. We went through them for several weeks and we did things, and then other times we just kind of do a lot of other fun things. So today I'm going to talk about something called a vertex. And I've got this site up here. I love this, cafeastrology.com. If you don't know about it, it's a great little site. But you can go there and calculate, there's a vertex calculator. So you can just here, enter in your month, day, year. Now, exact birth time, hour, minute, birth city. I'm going to have to play around with this and see, for people that don't know their exact time. I mean, I'm sure like with year and minutes, you can get good, but what if you don't at all? I'm gonna have to play around with it because, it's going to move, but that kind of sucks. You have to just maybe kind of go with it, or do a rectification, or there's other ways, to try to hone in on the time. But anyway, oh, you can just see all the cool stuff that they have over here on the site. But you can go there now if you're listening to this. Go to go to the top so you can see it. The astrology cafeastrology.com, and then you can type in vertex in the search, and then you can type yours in if you really want to know it right now. Otherwise, it's if it's a lot of times astrologers won't run it, so you won't find it in your natal chart, but it's like VX. It'll say VX, but it has to be added in specifically. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this up here for a second. And this is maybe something that you don't have to watch so much as listen to, but I've got my notes. So I'm going to switch on my screen and read some of my notes. But I just want to give you something to look at. So anyway, what is this vertex? It's another one of these points, kind of like, your ascendant, or, your midheaven, or, the moon nodes. They're not a planet in a spot, it's a point. So in astrology there's a lot of great circles, the great, that they pass through the center of a sphere, and then where circles intersect, there's some interesting things that happen. So just to give you an idea of kind of what we're talking about, I'm not going to give you too much astrobabble. I don't want you to go off the rails right away if you've never heard of this, but it's the intersection. Okay, like when we're talking about, say, the ascendant, what is the ascendant? That is the intersection of the ecliptic, which is the apparent path of the sun going across the sky. It's like if you look outside, you'll see the path. Like in the winter time, the sun going across the sky is lower, and in the summertime it's higher. Okay, that's called the ecliptic. And planets and sun, moon, things rise and set along that. Okay, so your ascendant is the intersection of that and the horizon, right at the eastern. It's that in the east, that's the ascendant. And the opposite of that would be your descendant. But the vertex is calculated as the point located at the intersection of this ecliptic path and the prime, something called the prime vertical, which is a plane that divides the celestial sphere in front and back. Top, it's like you can just think front to back. So anyway, it's just another way of slicing that. And a brilliant and innovative astrologer named Charles Jane wondered why the intersection of the ecliptic in the west and the prime vertical was not used. He called the intersection of the ecliptic and the prime vertical in the west the vertex. Okay. The opposing point he called the anti-vertex, or the east point. So you'll find the vertex, it's a sensitive point, and it's always going to be found on the right hand side, or the western half of the horoscope, between usually the fifth and the eighth houses. Now, I wanted to get a picture of this, but I didn't today, but I'll tell you about it. This, I just got to I got to back up a little bit, because this sensitive point is it's interesting because of where it's at in the natal chart, or where you'll find it between the fifth and the eighth houses. And you should know that that is, if things are on the bottom part of the chart, for the most part, they're not as outwardly seen. They're more inner, even though like your so you have, that could be on your fifth and sixth on that, and then above that horizon on your seventh and eighth. But all of that is over on the western side of the chart, which is more dealing with others, not yourself. There's a great, great book that just came out by an author named Dusty White. It's called The Easiest Way to Learn Astrology Ever. And I love this author. He's amazing. And this book is amazing. It's a new astrology book. It's definitely one it would be in a class by itself, and it's going to soon become a classic. But it's written where you can, people that know nothing or very little can really understand, and then people that know a lot can get it at deeper levels. I kind of think it's sort of written like the Bible, where there's hidden meanings in that, and there's exercises and games, not really games, but exercises and homework, to help you understand certain concepts, which is brilliant, especially things that we really don't get in the beginning, like understanding hemispheres, left and right, top and bottom. And then he's got something that he kind of coined with the octaves, and there's three octaves, and he goes deep into that, and it's fascinating. So that would be, you divide the chart by three, and you have, four houses. So that would, one octave would be, very highly personal, and then the next one would be others, and then the third one would be above all of that. But anyway, I digress. The reason I'm kind of saying all this, because he's one of the first authors that I've found that's really put all that together. But the fact that in his work, and definitely in the beginning part of that book, he really helps understand quadrants, and hemispheres and the octaves at a great level. Then you can understand, it just gives you a new lens to understand astrology. But the points that the vertex are lying, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because he really brings home about that part of the chart. So, you're in your the fifth house. That's like your creations, your love affairs, your children, things that you are doing. Your sixth, for others or with others, about others, right? It's like you have a love affair with somebody. You have somebody's child, and that's your child. If you have, some creative venture, that's your bringing up that child, whether it's a child or whether it's an art project. Okay. Um, on your sixth house, that's like your day-to-day routines. That's your interaction, like at work or with others or with servants, or so you have to serve somebody, or it's like that interplay. The seventh house is where you're interacting with more intimate others, or not, or enemies. Right. And then the eighth house is those intimate things that are like others stuff, you getting into that. So you can see how fated that area would be. Okay, that being said, um, it's kind of like it. Okay, there's I would say karmic destiny. There it's different, not only with others, but there's a lot associated with the vertex. So, extensive research done by Charles Jane. Kind of, he looked at the karmic destiny about this, but other astrologers, associate it with not only fated encounters, which we'll unpack a little bit more, but where your calling is, where or the array of energy to be cultivated this lifetime. I think that one to me is the biggest one. What do you really, I mean, there's others that you're going to interact with, and that's what the most interesting part of this exploration today will be about, because that's just so interesting and it changes your life, fate with others. But I'll get there. But it's also, again, remember this, because I'm going to lean on one part today. I might do a part two. We'll have to see how much I get through today. But it's really a place where you have to, again, your calling, cultivate your calling. And that's oftentimes why you have those fated experiences, because somebody is shaking you to the core to get onto your calling somehow, or to clear up something, or to help you realize something about yourself. All right. This place also, this vertex spot, is a place where we easily give ourselves over to something beyond the scope of our own life, or over which we have no control, or what you draw into your life, or your cosmic awareness, or one's work or productivity. Or it's also like a doorway that gives access to other realities. So it could be also where you get psychic impressions or phenomena, visions. People can bring that into your life. It can be described why you feel drawn to certain people and not so much to others. It's kind of similar to your rising, your ascendant. It's like that point that floats in your chart. So it's primarily used like in more typical astrology is like to understand relationship dynamics. Have you ever wondered why certain people are familiar, feel familiar to you? It's if you come across their energy before, but you can't quite put your finger on it. And more often than not, it does have a lot to do with your synastry, your astrological compatibility. Sometimes you just feel like, oh yeah, that sun is right on my Venus and my Venus is on their sun and his Mars. And, it's like when somebody's compatible with you, you feel a lot of those natural synastric, is that word? A lot of those ties that you have, those commonalities that are good with people, things in common. But there's also in the chart, everybody's got their vertex, and when it's activated or it's something significant in yours, there's fated circumstances that tend to take place. So, how do we understand this? We all have signs that we love, right? And signs that we seemingly can't stand. And if you're with someone who constantly finds yourself drawn, say, to Geminis, you might come to realize that your vertex is in Gemini. um, or not, but I mean, I'm just kind of giving you something to say. So this can come with challenges, though, despite how amazing fated connections are, they're not always, they don't always have quite a happy ending, especially if you're not willing to do the shadow work. And this is always the key, because there's, those people that will be coming in on that, and we'll unpack that a little more, will trigger this spot with you. So how do you find this in your birth tech, in your birth chart? So I already said one way is cafeastrology.com, and you can go and put, your birth data in, and it'll spit out a degree. All right. And again, for the most part, it will be in that western side of your chart. All right, what else? So I'm just gonna go off my head for a second, and I'll come back to some of my notes. So it has a meaning, and I'm gonna go through in the houses, because it's again the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth house. I'll go through that in a minute, and then I'll go through the signs. But what we're going to want to do is, first of all, note where it is. All right. And then you'll kind of note, I mean, not everything that's going to cross over your vertex is going to be stimulating. So don't think, every time the sun, oh, the sun's going to go my vertex, or Venus is that I'm going to meet my true love, or it's not always. There's got to be a few things that, of course, line up. But, you want to check your progressions as well. Do you have something progressing to that point? And then what day or year is that? And then what other things are happening maybe by transit to that point? And then what about that time of year when the sun's there and all those other things are in check? So that's when we get a few things lined up, and they're always easier in retrospect to go look at. And then, it's like, oh yeah, let me go check out when I met so-and-so came into my life. Oh yeah, shit, You'd be like, okay, but to try to find it in the future. So what you'd want to do is, first of all, look, okay, where is it in your natal chart? Do you have any planets right next to it? Because if you do, then it could be even more of a fated thing for you. If you got Venus right next to your vertex, well, there's going to be some kind of maybe a love issue there that you're going to have to deal with sometime in your life, some kind of karmic thing. Because your Venus is right there. Or what about Pluto? What, there be some depthy thing there. Or what if it's on the opposite side where your anti-vertex is? So there's also, remember, this is an axis too. So you have one part and the other, because one part will be opposing it, just like all other, astrological things. All right, the vertex relates to fated or fateful events, notably encounters with highly influential people in an individual's life. Its sign and house should indicate the nature of these seemingly destined events. Dates when the vertex is activated by transit or progression of planets to the vertex degree should indicate their timing, at least in hindsight. But with this knowledge now, I'm sure you're going to go right go right to it and look up your vertex and see when things are going to hit there. All right. It also, I like this one because I remember it's not all about fated relationships, but that's just the most fascinating because it just is. But it also may give sensitive people glimpses into alternate realities, because it's a mystical spot. Okay, again, it's in either the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth houses. And the axis could be closer to your midheaven or IC. It's like it could be the ninth, third if you're born like maybe right on there near the equator. Okay, so this part of your chart connects to others. And if it's in the fifth house, I'll just give you a couple key things and then we'll get into it a little bit deeper. If it's in the fifth house, that's that you may be fated to fall in love or fall for somebody fast or be big on some kind of romance, maybe just in your head, who knows, or your creations or your kids. In the sixth house, you might be fated to be of service to others because that's the Virgo house where you're service. So you might have to take care of somebody. You might have to take care of a mom or a sister or a dad or all kinds of stuff. In the seventh house, you may be fated to prioritize relationships or be in the middle of love triangles, legal disputes, open enemies, lawsuits, depending on what type of fate is coming in and how you handle it. And the eighth house, you might be fated to transform via love or passion or some kind of deep, profound scorpionic kind of thing. That's the best way I can put it. All right. So the zodiac sign tends to be more important than the house, though. Although those definitely put it in a certain area. So the vertex can work in different ways. Your natal vertex can be activated by a conjunction or opposition of transiting or progressed planets and other sensitive points. Okay, right? So it's like, okay, you got yours, and it's like, oh crap, this year we've got the full moon and the new moon, and these two planets are going to walk right into it, right on. It's like right now we got the transits today. We've got just like on the 2nd of March, we've got Venus co-joining Jupiter at 12 degrees Aries. Venus and Jupiter conjuncting at 12 degrees Aries. What if your vertex was 12 degrees Aries? With that transit happening, I would tend to think that would be a significant time in your life. All right, so that's one way. It can also be activated when the horoscope of another person or place or organization activates your natal or progressed vertex. So what if you have to work with somebody that has their rising sign on your vertex or something like that, or whatever? So in a horoscope, when you're comparing, synastry, you can find very close conjunctions of the vertex of one person to a point or planet of the other one, where there's something significant going on, or between the two, like one person's vertex might be on one sun and the other ones might be on the other one's Venus or whatever. And then again, the vertex in the progressed horoscope seems to be important as well and shouldn't be neglected. Also, progressed planets or points to your natal vertex are significant, and you should always check your natal and progressed vertex point and take notice of exact conjunctions and oppositions to that degree. So for example, your vertex points like at 6 degrees 21 minutes Cancer, check out the planets that are between between 6, just the whole 6 degrees. It's like a tight orb. Give it like 1 whole degree. All right. So depending on where it falls in your chart, it can bring attractions and encounters, not necessarily romantic or physical though. It may go from, say, friendships and people entering your life, especially with the vertex in the 5th or the 7th house. Patronage, especially, you have to patronize somebody or something, especially with vertex in your 6th, or material gain and spiritual message from universe or psychic connections when it's in your eighth house. Also, be aware that the most intense and powerful events or encounters only seem to happen when there is a planet conjunct the vertex in your natal chart and another transiting or progressed planet or points to this combo. You know, again, if, like I said, if you got Venus there, or what if you have Pluto next to your vertex or anti vertex, the other side? So, yeah, that will make it, you got a couple of things, bing bong, happening there. Um, what else? Okay, one cannot alter or change the results signified by the vertex as they are predetermined by one's past and are hence karmically connected to them. The vertex has to do with powerful attraction, desire, obsession, falling in love, family bonds, partnerships, friendships, karmic connections, and other significant interpersonal relationships. It reveals how or why one is attracted to and form meaningful how or why one is attracted to and forms meaningful connections with certain people without consciously trying to do so, and also what attracts others to them. It can be thought of as a doorway or a gateway between conscious awareness and our subconscious selves. I like that one. A gateway to new opportunities or experiences in life. And see, and that's why the fated people come in. If you are ignoring finding yourself, somebody else is going to come and bonk you over the head, you know, hit you with a 2x4. Maybe you have to fall in love and then have them walk away or whatever, you know, and or whatever the thing is. Or, you know, work with the job, or you got to serve somebody. I mean, there could be so many different ways these whirl out. But if you get in touch with yourself, you can lessen having to have so much of an outward physical experience, maybe. It can also signify powerful karma connections that have been dormant until activated by this point. When the vertex is activated, it can bring sudden shifts in our lives that may take us by surprise. It can also indicate a time when a powerful connection to someone may arise or be awakened. The vertex may also put an individual in tense or uncomfortable situations, which allows them to learn to tackle such situations in the future, contributing to personal growth. Oh, good. The events triggered by the vertex activation involve other people and usually accompany significant incidences that may affect one's life balance depending on its natal position, aspects, and other astrological variables. For instance, individuals with the vertex in Virgo, like the sixth house of, you know, service, job, routine, and health, might indicate that the native is expected to be service oriented and capable of offering practical insights and constructive criticism. So they may be put in a situation, say, maybe where they're compelled to accept criticism. You know, they gotta take it. They got to incorporate order or healthy habits into their own lives, or build their reasoning faculties and self-worth, so it enables them to have a healthy sense of self. So if they resist that and they row against that flow, that may lead to self-sabotage behaviors and feelings of worthlessness. The vertex provides an opportunity to develop something new. I like that. Embracing it opens the path to progress, and not doing it makes you more stagnant. Let's see. The Vertex Association. Let's see, what else did I want to let you know about? There's also like a connection. Okay, so however strong such connections are with two people, say maybe it's a, you know, the vertex associated with two individuals may point to a soul connection, maybe a soulmate connection, but sometimes the connections aren't always meant to last, especially in a karmic relationships, which usually involves a strong Saturn or lunar node connect link, you know, with something on there where two people say are brought together to balance out their karmic debts. Every major aspectual relationship, like you know, conjunction, squares, trines, all that, to the vertex, you know, it kind of will help to help you to understand what it's all. So it's like if you have 3 or 4 points of your stuff to theirs, and then they only have 1 to yours, you know, that's kind of out of balance. It's more something for you to learn than them. I think that makes sense. So if you have more context to their stuff, it's going to be more intense for you. That's what I want to say. All right. Now that I want to go through, see how am I doing with time? Um, I'd like to go through the signs. I know there's a lot. Just come. I think what I'm going to do, well, I think what I'm going to do is just give you some keywords, and then I'm going to go through part two and go through each sign in depth next week. So I'm just going to give you some of the keywords today, so you got something to go on. So vertex through the sign, the keywords. So if it's in Aries, you have a vertex in Aries, you've got to think Aries now. It's a you have like a deep desire for like raw, unbridled passion, maybe an obsession, obsessive lust, maybe or true adventure, excitement, exploration. So it's going to be something Aries or Arian that's going to be triggered. That drive, that energy. And I'll get into it more detail, but I think to do due diligence, it's going to take me a good half hour or so, and I kind of want to keep these sort of short so they're not belabor it with everybody. All right, Taurus would be like your inner senses. You're ignited by interacting with material things, maybe in an artistic, dignified, elegant way, or security. Maybe it's issues that you got to deal with security. Um, Finding confidence as well. Because if you're not comfy, you can't promote yourself. Gemini, intimacy is equated with communication on a daily basis. So Gemini, in that area, you need conversation or daily matters or things that you communicate, or you have to communicate. You have to learn to communicate, or you have to learn to listen as well. If it's in Cancer, then it's that has to a lot. It wants to shut out things. It wants to go in its shell. It wants to get away from anything discordant or noise or anything interfering from the outside. So it's kind of has to deal with that outer shell and that inner softy. Leo, or that Leo vertex would be, it would reflects that fantasies of, say, that childlike, or the fantasies of a child who works so hard to be praised and loved. It's like it just wants, it's the kid bringing the picture to mom or dad, and and it's just an ugly little scribble. You should validate that child like it's the most beautiful thing on earth. If you don't, if you throw it away or something, it's like, oh no, look how, look what you did. So that would bring up those kind of issues for somebody at the vertex there. Virgo, in the Virgo spot, it would be, things triggering maybe some unique kind of healing powers or organizational abilities or focus. Maybe something that has to be practical rather than scattered, which will make things right. Libra longs for a union of souls that's based on a peace and justice. That why can't we all just get along? And then and thinking about others, but then other people thinking of them. Having that balance. Maybe there's a lot of one-sidedness, one way or the other, with that connection. Scorpios have that desire or continually, with I don't mean Scorpios when I say that or whatever. I'm just meaning the vertex point. So Scorpio vertex point would be a desire or continual need for feeling irresistible and irreplaceable on all levels of intimacy. They need, that spot needs a continual intimate, stimulation, on whatever intimate levels, on many. Sagittarian psyche learns to be, it yearns to be carried away, for some kind of mystical, I don't want to say religious, like a religious rapture, although it could be. Some people get stuck on the religious side of things and miss the whole spiritual or mystical part. But I think that's the underlyingness of that Sagittarian, or that outward growth, that wanting for that expansion, that inner ecstatic space. Capricorn needs, and it's indicated for needs for the partner or someone to understand the trials and tribulations they have endured, everything they've gone through, that painstaking way of whatever they had to endure. The Aquarian Vertex, I would say, yearns for something that is more of a completion of itself through the highest ideal of a friendship or a group. It's more in that head, in the heady part of it, that intellectual uh, satisfaction, stimulation, or group acceptance as well. Pisces is like that unspoken concept of intimacy that sort of blends into a mystical way with a capacity for compassion. It's not like the mysticalness of the Sagittarian. It's more of that timeless, spaceless capacity for just being ultimately compassionate. I think just that in and in what we call unconditional love. So that Pisces side of it. All right, and then just a little bit more. I want to just give you a couple more keywords and thoughts for the places again. I kind of wanted to iron this out a little bit more. You're in the fifth house. It's like a childlike orientation toward relationships on an internal level. You have a need for fun in a committed relationship, no matter how many years it has endured. That's usually a fun house, right? It's the Sag house. The sixth house, if it's in your sixth house, you've got an attitude of duty and obligation, maybe when it comes to heartfelt interactions. Here we often find associations unconsciously based on a medical or religious model of service and sometimes even sainthood. I remember my grandma said, "Oh, you have to take care of your mother. She's your mother." I remember her just saying that with such passion. Like she was made to do that. Uh, anyway, seventh house, classic position for those who are always in a partnership of one kind or another, or have to an antagonistic, some enemy in their life, somebody that they have to blame or push away from. That's also a seventh house thing. If it wasn't for this person, I would be blah blah blah. If it wasn't for, so there's something there. Well, I mean, it could be true, but there's always, two to tango. And then the eighth house, again, it's like an internal yearning for like a total commitment from somebody else. Or when the reality of a partner does not fit this, which it rarely doesn't, if it doesn't fit that, they may have a difficult time adjusting. It's like, I want you all to myself. It's like a just total commitment. Don't even think nothing. Look there, I want this this like it's like pin you down and keep you there kind of thing. Possessiveness, there we go. One way or the other, toward them or them towards someone else. All right, that being said, I'm gonna let this go for today because I think if you don't know where it is, the next time you hear this, you'll go look it up and you'll know where it is and you'll go review this. And then I want to go into detail on the next one. I'll do part two. I was thinking that would, because there's a lot here, and I'll go through in depth on each sign. So this will at least give you something to think about. And now, once you start knowing it, you can start looking up or thinking, oh, that's my so and so's probably. It's like this is a rising sign, or this is here, and oh, and that's what year that was. Had the full moon on that. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can go gather a little bit of information on it, and then we'll be back and look more at your vertex. All right, next time. Thank you for listening, and more on vertex next week. Bye for now.